Hello, everyone. This is Bill Apter, and I just finished taping an episode of Count It Out with Mike and Tyler, or Tyler and Mike. They're brilliant hosts. You've got to listen, you've got to see. Count It Out. Yeah, I endorse it. They've got the After Chat seal of approval.
Hey, everybody, this is the voice of Ring of Honor, Ian Riccaboni, and you're listening to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler.
Guess who's back? Back again. Mike is back. Tell your friends. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Mojito Mike.
Two Trailer Park Boys.
I was either going to go with Eminem or Snoop Dogg. Guess who's back in the motherfucking house with two big nuts for your motherfucking mouth. But you do not have big nuts, so I didn't want to lie to our fans.
I don't.
Mike,
yeah, that's not true. I do have big nuts. I just don't have anything else to go with it.
Well, they work because our people have not heard you in a couple of weeks now because of your fatherhood.
Look at me now, man. Let's pull the curtain back. See this beautiful face. See how not dead I look. See how not tired I look. This is not real life. We are putting this in the can. If I'm doing inside baseball, we are recording this months in advance, so I can be involved in the show while I'm on hiatus.
Yes,
but in real life, I'm taking care of both my 3.5-year-old and a newborn baby. So I'm dead tired right now. I'm sure I haven't talked to you in weeks, Tyler. And
what a great time it's been. And I'm going to just send a little message to future Tyler. Future Tyler, great job on making the show even better and bigger without Mike. I can't believe the views that you're getting without him. I think we're going to change your name from Mojito Mike to the Anchor, I think.
That's not funny.
I'm kidding. I miss you.
It is my biggest fear. It is my biggest fear that I'm going to leave the show for 6 weeks. That's why we're putting these in the can so people don't forget about me. I'm going to leave the show for 6 weeks, and then fucking all of a sudden the show is going to blow up, and it's going to be even bigger in Qatar than it already is. And
I mean, listen, I can't say anything here because when I took 3 weeks off to move into my house, you were doing great numbers, and I came back and our numbers fucking tanked. So true. But that's for another. I mean, we do great numbers. We're the best. Buy a t-shirt.
I'm glad you decided to bring me back for this one anyways, because it would have made more sense to bring on friend of the show, Mike Jeffries.
That's fair.
You know,
we had him on a few weeks ago, probably about a month ago. I don't know when that was, but I love Mike Jeffries. Shout out to Barry Wrestling, of course. Love all the work they do. And this is your list here, man. Top 7.
I gotta tell you, it broke my heart not to have Mike and the big guy on this list this week.
Yeah, Mike and Diamond Jim, they're a great team for Barry Wrestling. And this is a tough list, I think, man. I don't think. Like I don't think there's going to be surprises.
Tough, also, it's not tough.
Yeah, like here's my take on your list,
not
Mike.
Nearly as tough. 5, 6, 7 was tough.
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4 were not tough.
My take on your list is that I think that we all know what's going to be on your list, but the ranking for it, I think, is very, very hard.
I had a hard time with 5, 6, 7. As far as ranking, my number 1 and my number 2 were very easy. My 3 and 4 flipped around, and I guarantee I'm going to get some heat for that.
That's what you're known for.
I might. It still might flip around by the time I get there. You know what I mean? I'm very, very not sold on it. Anyways, I'm sure we've already mentioned this. This is the best commentary teams.
Yes,
the
I'm
best
a
combination of play-by-play and color.
So
together.
I have a huge. The biggest question I have to ask you is where did you rank the Miasma Citadel team of Tyler and Jonah the Mind I've got to be at least top 4, right?
We weren't doing dishonorable mentions this
What?
week, so
I'm telling Jonah you said that.
Jonah, all the props in the world for Jonah for carrying you. No, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that because it is our dream. It is my dream, and I hold this very close to my chest. That you and I will be doing commentary for a certain company in Ontario. I'm not saying the name right now, but we are in talks with a certain company in Ontario, and it is my dream that we will impress that company enough to let us do commentary. So I am not going to shit on your skills because I need you.
I will tell you one of my commentary stories with Jonah, because I'm not a commentator. I shouldn't say I am. I did like 6 episodes of a show. But like on Count It Out, like we drink, that's what we do.
Yeah.
And when I did this show with Jonah, I didn't have time to drink because like our schedules were very tight. I would come home from work. I would maybe have like 1 drink, but one day we had a delay for like an hour and a half. And
So you got polluted.
I got polluted, and then we got canceled the next week. I was just trying to channel my inner Gordon Soley, man. That guy like to throw him back.
Oh, fuck. I will say this before we get into the list. We always do, and we still will. We always do our honorable mentions after the list. I have one honorable mention I'm going to put before the list because it's important that I put it first because it doesn't meet the criteria to be on the list, but it should.
Okay.
And that's Joey Styles when he's all alone.
Fair.
It's not a team, so I couldn't put him on. But nobody does commentary by himself the way Joey Styles does.
If they would have had more time together, I could have seen Joey Styles and Cyrus / Don Callis as a number 7. Yeah. They didn't have enough time together. Joey Styles is one of my favorite commentators of all time. I just think that guy, especially doing it by himself, even him and the King were pretty good together. Like
they were all right. Yeah,
they were not bad. You know what I mean? There's just something about Joey. He's so good at telling the stories as well as calling the moves. And I know we're going to talk about Michael Cole a lot in this, and so I don't want to jump too far ahead here. But Michael Cole is such a good storyteller. But he's told not to call the moves, right? And that's deliberate. Joey did both. And I just thought it was so awesome that he did that.
Before we jump right in, I do want to say that was the inspiration for this list. We are still, it's been almost 2 weeks. We're coming off WrestleMania.
Well, no, we're not, because this is being aired fucking 7 months later. But
yes. Anyways, we are, as of recording, we are coming off WrestleMania. And I thought about something during WrestleMania weekend. And I don't know how many listeners are actually going to agree with me. It doesn't really matter to me if they do or not. But I've decided that in my head, I really do believe that Michael Cole is one of the probably top 3 greatest play-by-play announcers in the history of the game.
Yeah, and if you don't agree with that, you're an idiot. I
believe that. And I'm willing to say right now that out of all his partners, out of all his team ups, I do think my favorite is him and Pat McAfee. They are just so fucking good together. Yeah. Now, spoiler alert, they're not on the list. They've been together for a fucking hot minute. So they can't make this list yet. Talk to us in a year, and they could be very high on the list if McAfee keeps doing what he's doing. Mm-hmm. So I really thought about that. I'm like, man, they're such a good team. One of these days, they're going to be one of the greatest teams of all time. And then it got me thinking, who are the greatest teams of all time? And that's where this list came from.
Yeah, Michael Cole, the amount of stuff that guy does, he's telling a story while he's hearing 14,000 things in his ear. And he's not just hearing Vince in his ear. He's hearing Kevin Dunn. He's hearing everybody in his ear.
Yeah.
While he's still telling these stories, while he's still doing the play-by-play, and he does it so well. You would never tell that there's 14 people talking in his head. You'd never tell if Vince is yelling at him or Vince is feeding him lines. Like, Michael is so natural. And the evolution of Michael Cole. And, I really liked him and Taz together in the early 2000s. Before Taz became more comedy Taz, when they were called in the SmackDown 6, they were the best commentary team in the WWF at the time.
Yeah, I guess I just wasn't a fan of the team up. But if it takes, hearing 14 voices in your head to make you a good commentator, I guess Damien Demento maybe should have took a run at it, right?
I thought you were going to say you and I were going to be naturals.
That's only on SummerSlam weekend when it's not 14 voices, it's 14 beers.
Oh no, I just cracked another one. This is the first time I'm trying this one. I'm excited for it.
Oh, well, tell us the verdict.
That's not bad.
What is it?
I've got at the time of recording, Cottage Springs has just put out their brand of vodka lemonades, and this is a strawberry twist on it. Oh, it's nice.
It's nice. All right. Maybe by the summertime, I'll be knee deep in those since I'm taking 6 weeks off work.
They're gonna be in your bottle.
Yeah, baby, get this. Daddy, get this. Oh shit! Switch.
All right.
Do you want to dive
Daddy,
in, brother?
Yes, Daddy. Let's hear what your number 7 is.
We've talked about this. You don't call me that on air.
Oh, I apologize.
We are going to start in the early 2000s, I believe. I want to say maybe 2001, 2002. You can correct me on my years. Man, you already mentioned the ECW thing. Let's go here to Jim Ross and Paul Heyman.
This is your number 7, eh?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I love these guys together.
Am I right about the years? 2001, 2002?
Yeah, they did 2001.
When did
they only did 2001.
Was that it? They only did 1 year?
Man, if you're talking about on-air chemistry and talent, these guys are my number 1.
Yeah.
I love these two together. Unfortunately, there's more to it than that. The longevity has to be a factor.
Longevity. I didn't know it was only a year. I knew it wasn't very long though, which is one of the reasons they kind of faltered on the list.
Yeah, Heyman came in.
Almost didn't make it, to be honest.
Heyman came in right before WrestleMania 17. I think the week before WrestleMania 17, right. Maybe 2 weeks before, and he was gone by Survivor Series that year.
And did he come in because they fired or because the King quit?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It was the whole Stacey Carter thing, right?
That's right.
Yeah, they were so good together, and he kept JR on his toes, man. What was it, like his first day in? He comes in, and he makes that joke. He's like, I came to Washington, D.C., and I got to see Bush. And right away, it was like, okay, this is what we're getting with this guy.
I'll never forget. Do you remember the episode where they got into an argument with each other on air?
Like a legit argument?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
But they were both in character, but you could tell that JR was pissed. And they were like, JR was screaming at Heyman, but in character. But you could see, like,
he's such a professional, though. So,
Heyman had
making that work.
Heyman had a way of bringing out a better side of JR, I think, than anybody could. And
do you remember what that was? What the argument was about?
It was after a title match with Austin, and okay. It was during the Alliance time period, and Austin had cheated to win, or I don't know exactly what happened, but Heyman was defending it, and Ross was getting so mad about it, and Heyman kept pushing the button, and Ross just snapped, "Shut up, Paul! Shut up!" Like, you're like, and they just argued for like 2 minutes, but it was amazing. Like, it just added such a sense of realism to the Invasion storyline. You know what I mean?
That's great. If we ever got a chance to talk to either one of those gentlemen, I'd love to ask them about that. That's a great story. I like that.
Maybe I'll try to edit that in here.
That's a good idea.
Neck. He went to the Olympics with a broken neck, and I'm afraid that may have reoccurred. And Austin is a sick, no good son of a dirty.
If you want a job in the Alliance, I can put in a good word for you with Steph and Shane and with Stone Cold, because it looks to me like you're running out of WWF superstars. He's pink carried off.
I'll get out of the business and go back to Oklahoma and go to a football game. The bottom line here is Austin is paranoid. He is sick. He didn't give Angle any warning. He threw him off that stage. He's a sick human being, and he's running scared. He stole the man's medals. Hey, look, if the roles were reversed, Austin would have thrown Angle over the bridge. And Kurt Angle didn't throw Austin.
You tell me that Kurt Angle wouldn't have thrown Stone Cold off that bridge?
Right.
What, are you out of your mind?
No, I'm not.
Let me tell you something. Kurt Angle would have thrown Stone Cold off that bridge. Stone Cold had
a kiddie pool there.
Oh, please, he had a kiddie pool to fall back into. He was going to throw Stone Cold off the bridge. Steve Austin is alive today because of his great self-defense.
That's a bunch
you
of
want to have more respect for Stone Cold Steve
respect for Austin.
Why not?
Even less for you. And I'll tell you this, it's unforgiving. Austin's going to get his ass whipped. He's going to get his ass whipped in Pittsburgh.
By who?
And he knows
By Kurt Angle? By Kurt Angle? Get out of your mind.
Kiss my ass.
Moving on to my number 6, we're talking about the greatest of all time. Like we said before, this man has to be talked about. We got our man Michael Cole with undoubtedly, in my mind, until Pat McAfee, his greatest partner in John Bradshaw Layfield.
I'm happy that you found these guys on your list. I think I would have switched them. I think I would have had them as my number 7. But I want to see if
I think they were together a little longer, and I think their chemistry, especially after they were together longer, I think their chemistry was better. They were obviously, and you know it now, but even if they were playing heel and face, you could tell these guys are friends.
Yeah,
they really like each other, even if they don't like each other.
Did you ever watch the JBL and Cole show? Did you ever watch the JBL and Cole show on YouTube?
I probably did once or twice.
Oh my God. It's the greatest YouTube show the WWE has ever done. They did this like superstar talent competition, and Daniel Bryan and Kane, Daniel Bryan especially, stole the show. He called himself the Bedazzler, and he said he was a magician. And then there was one episode where he said he was going to wrestle a bear, and then Hornswoggle walked out holding like a bear costume and put the thing. He's like, what am I doing here? And Daniel Bryan just pointed at him and went, a bear. And he kicked him right in the nuts. I couldn't breathe. He also did a rap song about Kane being super stinky for not changing his mask in 20 years. I'm gonna send you the links off air.
You do that.
Maybe, you know what? I'm feeling froggy tonight. Maybe I'll edit the Daniel Bryan rap in right here too.
The Dazzler have today.
That's right. Last round, I beat a bear. The round before that, I did magic. I've been doing different stuff every round. What's Yoshitatsu been doing? He's been doing music. Well, you know what? This round, I'm gonna beat him at his own game. I'm Bedazzled. This is my beatboxer, Curly Kane. Hit it, Curly. When we first won the titles, it was I, but now it's we. Our friendship has grown deeper than the roots of an oak tree. But still I'm underrated, and still I'm undersmarted. When I hook him in the ring, it smelled like he had farted. Did he really do the deed, or was that just my upper lip? When we were in the ring, I gave his glove a sniff. He hasn't washed that thing in 15 years. It isn't that he's scary, it's his smelliness we fear. Kane is super smelly. Kane is, come on, Curly. Kane is super smelly. Hey.
Do you have any good memories? Like, what's your favorite memory of Cole and JBL? Anything popped ahead right away?
No, like I just thought they did a good job. Always.
I don't know why. And my buddy Ray, I hope Ray's listening. When he gets drunk or when he's feeling extra froggy, he likes to mimic JBL when he's talking to me. He likes to call me Michael.
Yeah, I do like that. I like that a lot. I really like JBL in this role. He, especially when he first started, he really reminded me of Jesse Ventura a lot.
Yeah.
Where he was that heel that was in the ring, but he would put over the baby faces that they deserved it. Like
exactly.
Like Jesse would always put over our good friend of ours, Bronwyn Billington, of course, her dad. He would always put over the Bulldogs. Now I think it's probably because he was scared of them. But Jesse but he was always Rick Rude's guy, right? The winner of the Jesse the Body Award, right? And JBL would do that. He would have his guys, but he wasn't afraid to give shine to the baby face if they needed it.
I like that as well. Like I do think one of the best heel commentators of all time is probably Jerry Lawler, but Jerry Lawler always ended up Max the Dog.
We got Max,
but Jerry was 100% heel.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Yeah, it was. If you were a heel, I like you. If you were a face, I don't like you. And if you had a heel or a face during the next week, then I change with you.
Yeah, I did like the Jerry Lawler ass kissing of Vince. We'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Yeah. So he, where I like more, while he is a great heel commentator, I'm with you. I like the aspect of JBL or Ventura having those few faces that they would kiss up to.
Yes, I agree with that. As I'm getting attacked by Max the dog here. Max.
Speaking of one of the greatest, probably the greatest heel commentator of all time, my number 5, I'm going to Mr. Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Ooh.
And his partner, Tony Schiavone.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I love these guys together.
Their stuff in WCW, fucking Christ, is some of the wittiest, stupidest, funniest, amazing stuff I've ever heard in my life. The stuff where he'd be like fucking off and having meetings with Sonny Ono, and Tony's just going like, "What the fuck is going on here?" It's so funny. It's so good. They had such good. I want to say that he didn't have gorilla chemistry with him, but he had goddamn good chemistry with him.
He did. I don't know if I would put these guys on my list personally.
Really?
And that's not a knock towards them, because
Bobby, so I'm gonna make a spoiler list. A spoiler here. The other team I'm about to mention did not make my list, so I'm gonna ask you, what's the better team, Bobby and Tony or JR and Tony?
Personally,
JR and Tony in WCW. I don't give a fuck what they're doing now.
I like JR and Tony in the 80s.
They did not make my list. I think Bobby and Tony.
I don't think they would have made my list either. But
Bobby and Tony were one of the reasons I tuned into Nitro.
I mean, like, I watch for Bobby all the time. Like, Bobby can do anything, and as far as I'm concerned, you know what I mean? Like, he makes everything entertaining. Bobby
and Tony together, they could make, like, I liked it when it was just the two of them, but then even if it was like a fucking 4-man booth, they shoved in Dusty and Bischoff and Ted DiBiase and God knows who else. You have all these guys in the booth. Tony, you were still listening for Tony and Brain. As long as you could listen to Tony and Brain and keep the other guys out, you still had a good team.
I mean, they were great together. I'm not trying to say that they weren't great together. I also really like Tony and Dusty together as well. I thought Dusty was just so unique on commentary. They wouldn't make my list, but like, I mean, Dusty had these great calls too, like the plunder, and he's got a bicycle. Like, like that's good stuff.
So does Tony not come close to your list? Like when you're talking about the great play-by-play guys, are we not talking about Tony Schiavone for you?
I would think about putting Tony and Jesse Ventura on my list, in all honesty. I like them a lot together because they had 2 good runs together. They had a good run in the 90s in the WWF or 89 or whatever. They did SummerSlam 89. They did a few shows together. What'd they do? They did SummerSlam 89 and Royal Rumble 90. And then in WCW, they had a good run in 92. And yeah, I really like those guys together, but I don't know. I think Tony's really good, but I don't think he ever got the partner that like Bobby was a little checked out in WCW. You know what I mean? Like he didn't care as much.
I mean, I know he did not care nearly as much as he did back, especially after Gorilla died. He did not care nearly as much as he did in WWF, but he was still Bobby the Brain. At his worst is still better than 99 at their 99% at their best. Let's be honest. You're not on my mic.
I had mute hit there. I like Bobby and Tony a lot, but they're not making my list.
All right. Well, before we go on to my number 4, then here's a question for you. If Tony doesn't really make your top play-by-play guys, who's the better play-by-play? Tony Schiavone or Mike Tenay?
Ooh, I think Tony. I think I give the nod Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
so
like.
hard,
Don't get me
though.
wrong. Don't get me wrong. I love Mike Tenay. I really do. I think his stuff in TNA is criminally underrated. But I got to give it to Tony, to be perfectly honest.
Me too. Me too. I thought Tenay was better as Tony and Bob. Like, if you put Tenay, Tony, and Bobby together, I was really happy with that team.
That team, if I would have thought of that could have been on the list.
Yeah, like, you know what? Just add Tenay on there now, and I'll be fine. I'll be fine
All
with
right,
that.
there
I'll
you
be
go.
fine with that.
So, like I've been saying for the last 5 minutes, my number 5 is Mike Tenay, Bobby Heenan, and Tony Schiavone.
That's right. The real professor.
Yeah, Anthony. Wait, no.
No, he's the prodigy. I'm the knockoff.
Moving on to my number 4. I guess I'm gonna go with what I have written, because I'll get heat if I go the other way. Fuck, it's so hard. These guys are not a number 4 team. I'm trying not to do a tie here, because these guys are not a number 4 team, but neither is the other team in contention. So fuck it, I'm going with it. My number 4 is Vince McMahon and Jesse the Body Ventura.
I think this is a great place for them.
I wanted them to be my number 3 so bad, but the other team, I just can't keep it in the top 3. So I love Vince on commentary. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Doesn't matter who you put him with, man. You put him with Randy, you put him with Piper, you put him with Jesse, you put him with King. I don't give a shit. But I think of all his team ups, him and Jesse, man, they had something. They had something real special. And Jesse was Vince Jesse's last partner before he fucked off?
I think Shivani was, in all honesty.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Or Gorilla. The last show I remember Jesse doing was WrestleMania 6 with Gorilla.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But they had fun. This is back in the day when you could still shit on Vince and nobody gave a fuck. Like, you weren't going to get in trouble for shitting on Vince. All the commentators did it right up until the King, right? But the King, the King had only like 3 jokes, right? Like, the King went after Vince's toupee.
Well, that was Jesse's joke first.
It's true, but the King hit it every single fucking week.
Yeah.
But Jesse, man, he had something different every week to say, and it was so good. I don't care who you are. Hear him say, "Shut up, McMahon." I'm gonna, there's something about that chemistry between the two of them. This is long before the Mr. McMahon character. This is Vince, how I grew up with Vince. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I love Mr. McMahon. I at least I loved Mr. McMahon in a certain era of time. That character is phenomenal. But I grew up with What a Maneuver,
Vince.
You know what I mean? I grew up with fucking. I don't know if you ever played WrestleMania, the arcade game.
Oh yeah.
Boom shakalaka.
Vince is great. Listen,
that's the Vince I grew up with. Not the owner, not the owner of WWF. When I was a kid, I didn't know Vince was the owner. Vince was the guy who came out every Monday night or every Saturday night and fucking sat there with his fucking salmon coat or tweed coat and fucking with the big WWF logo fucking stitched on it. And he did the play-by-play horribly. And
you know what? I don't think he
got
did.
up. I say horribly as a joke. He wouldn't be on the list. He wouldn't be my number 4 if it was horrible.
Although Survivor Series 95, when the All Japan women were doing their match, he literally did not know one of their names, and it was really funny.
He went straight Art Donovan on that shit.
Yeah. JR. But Vince.
Hey, JR, how much does that girl weigh?
Oh my God. I hope that team's on your honorable mention.
Art Donovan is my number 1, by the way.
He should be everybody's number 1.
We should get him on the show.
Oh my God. I don't think he's still alive. He was like 90 when he did commentary.
Was he that old? Yeah.
Although I did like, if you go back into our archives when we talked to Tyson Kidd and we all got a laugh at Art Donovan, how much does that guy weigh? But here's the thing with Vince. It's his company, right?
Oh yeah, he died like 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's Vince's company. Who knows how to tell a story better than Vince?
Of course.
Right? He knew how to tell these stories. And Jesse.
Who's going to tell him? Don't, that's called that's called the suplex, Vince. Who nobody fucking cares. That's a maneuver. Okay, Vince. No one's gonna care. No one's gonna say anything to Vince.
But Jesse would call Vince out because Jesse didn't give a fuck, and that was what was so good about Jesse, right? And it was so fun that they actually got back to commentary on that Raw reunion. Remember that?
Man, out of all the people to choose, because it could have been anybody that night, right? But they got Jesse in that spot.
I think he was the guest host of Raw. Sorry,
he was. But of all the people they could have done that gimmick with, done that angle with, to get Vince on commentary one more time, to put that fucking blazer back on Vince one more time.
Oh, Jesse got him in a tux.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. The fact that that whole thing, nobody. It wouldn't have worked out anybody better than Jesse.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It could have worked with Piper. It kind of could have worked with King. Having Jesse do it because of their history, it was perfect.
I agree, man. I think this is a great spot for these guys. I think it's perfect.
Well, I'm glad you say that, because maybe I would have got heat for putting these guys at the number 4. Because these guys, I think these are the guys for a lot of people. They have to be number 3 for me personally because of the era I grew up in. I'm going to the voices of the Attitude Era, Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler.
Number 3, eh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm hoping that our number 1s are lined up. Number 2s, I'm trying to think. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I think
you're going to be with me when we talk about my number 1, number 2. I think you're going to be with me here.
I think I'm with you on this, and I think a lot of it has to do with our childhoods and our ages.
Yes, 100%.
However,
I agree with that.
I think
it has to do with the fact that some of this shit doesn't age very well.
I was just going to say that. That was the next sentence out of my mouth.
I can go back and watch stuff from my number 1 and still love it. I can go back and watch stuff from my number 2 and still love it. And that's why Jesse and Vince almost was my number 3, because I can still go back to Jesse and Vince and still love it. JR and King, while what I love, I still love, but some of it you go back and some of it's JR and he's kind of racist and kind of homophobic, kind of. But it's like that much. But then you have King, and then it's King is just fucking everything is puppies. Yeah,
King buried the women's division for years.
Yeah, King is he's something in that era. I wish that, like, I almost want to say that I prefer King with Vince over King with JR, just because at least it's not.
They were a great 3-man booth too, man.
Him screaming about tits every fucking day.
Well, they were a great 3-man booth.
They were a great 3-man booth. But I have to give this team their due, because they told some of the most insane stories and made them watchable. They made, like, honestly, because it takes everybody to make a great story, right? It doesn't just take the guys in the ring. It takes the guys on the table too. If you put the wrong guys on the table, how are you going to make
Mike Adamle?
Oh my fuck! How are you going to make this dead wizard cult guy kidnapping the boss's daughter look good? You put this family man in JR, this passionate JR, and his crazy wacko over the top sidekick. They made that shit look great. You know what I mean? They really did. Fucking Christ. They made an 80-year-old woman giving birth to a hand almost compelling. You know, you have to give them some credit for what they did during that era.
Something that I love about JR is that his bullshit meter, like, especially now, like, it's a lot better, like a lot worse. But like,
oh yeah,
if he sees something that's stupid, you can tell he hates it. You know what I mean?
And it comes out like every time something stupid would happen, and especially back then, they worked the boys all the time back then. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, JR, especially the King, would request to not know about certain things so he can mark out. You would hear JR on the fucking mic. Oh, God damn it.
These guys worked the best though when it was Vince and Austin. You know,
oh yes,
yes. JR, there's nobody, and you know, that's one of the fun things I like about doing Class Match Classroom is going back and listening to some of these calls that JR makes. There is nobody that gets you more excited to have to tune into Raw the next week than Jim Ross. Whether it's, you know, McMahon screwing Austin somehow, or Austin getting one over McMahon, or Triple H doing something, you know, it'd either be like, oh, hell yeah, Austin, or like, that son of a bitch, how could he do that? Like the passion spewing out of JR. 100%. And I think that's the one thing, you know, people shit on JR's work now. I don't think JR's work now is bad. I just don't think that there's anybody that he believes in right now and on the AEW roster.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that when JR believes in somebody, he makes them something bigger. And then, you know, 100%. I always love when JR be like, well, Mr. McMahon, or King would be like, Mr. McMahon, and JR be like, oh, Mr. McMahon. Like, he just, I just thought those guys, they were great together.
I think both Steve Austin and Mick Foley have JR to thank a lot for parts of their career. I really do.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the both heels and faces have maybe the King to thank a lot for getting them over. You know, I really do believe that. One of my favorite stories that was told that they were great on was the pretty much through 97, the Hart Foundation stuff, right? When Brett turned on Canada. I loved it because
Brett turned on the States.
Well, sorry, yes.
We love Brett. We love you, Brett.
Yes. Brett turned with Canada. Sorry.
There you go.
Brett turned into quite possibly the biggest heel of that era. And the King had spent the majority of his career hating Bret Hart. So now the thing is going on, and King's always loved Owen. He's always loved Bulldog. He's all, you know what I mean? So he's already there, but JR would not hesitate to call him out if he said something good about Bret. No, do you not remember before you? I never said that, JR. JR would call him out on that shit, and I loved it.
Do you remember like the actual angle where they got back together and Jerry Lawler spent the whole night crying after? Like that, I just thought that was so great. It's so beautiful. It's a family reunion. Yeah,
those two guys really put over that whole angle. They did a good job for that. That's why they're my number 3, because they, as much as some of their stuff doesn't age well, they really did their job the best at getting the in-ring talent over.
If you're number 3, 2, and 1 are what I think they are, you could make a compelling case for any of them to be your number 1, right? I know, that's what I'm saying. If you're 3, 2, and 1 are all what I think they're going to be, you could make a case for these guys being your number 1. I wouldn't fight you on it. You could make a case for this being.
For me personally, this couldn't be my number 1.
I mean, you could make the argument, is what I'm saying, and I'm pretty sure you could.
The argument could be made, and the argument I'm sure will be made. I could think of at least 3 friends off the top of my head that are yelling at the speakers right now and saying, "What the fuck? This is number 1." But they probably didn't grow up in the era of the guys of my number 2. And these are guys that we already mentioned earlier when you talked about WrestleMania 6. We're talking about Jesse the Body Ventura and the great late Gorilla Monsoon.
These guys did the first 6 WrestleManias together.
Yeah.
And they were great.
They were what a team together. I love them. And it always started with Gorilla in such a good mood. Loving Jesse. Jesse, it's good to see you. By the time it's halfway through, he's like, what are you talking about, Jesse? No, well, you don't know what you're talking about, Jesse. What are you talking about, Jesse? Like it was, holy shit, it was so good. They were so good together.
I always liked that when they commentated a Hogan match, because Jesse was always on Hogan. And Hogan wrestled like a heel. And Jesse would call him out on it. And Gorilla would always have that line, well, Jesse, turnabout is fair play. And Jesse would be livid. He's raking his eyes, Gorilla. Like, the champ got to do it. Like, and I just love that Gorilla always was a Hogan guy. And I love Gorilla on commentary. A lot of people shit on Gorilla on commentary. And they're idiots.
Let's talk about that for a second. He got like the worst commentator award from Meltzer for years.
I mean, I don't get it. I thought Gorilla had such a captivating voice in general, like a credible voice. You know what I mean?
I'd like to see where it wasn't the PWI, because I'd like to think that our boy Bill Apter would always have Gorilla's back.
I would hope so. Because he gave us a seal of approval, and we love Gorilla, so he must.
And we love Gorilla,
too.
so there you go. Yeah.
Next time we talk to Bill, let's get some Gorilla stories out of him.
Can I say something? I told you before that, and I know we're going to disagree on this because we talked offline. If Michael Cole has a shot of being one of the greatest play-by-play guys of all time, I think you got to talk about Gorilla. You obviously got to talk about JR, but I think Gorilla for me is my number one.
Gorilla's just so different than JR. You know what I mean?
You can't compare them. They're two very different styles, two very different eras of wrestling.
Gorilla never hit the psychopath level that JR would hit, but he still made everything important.
And the passion was there. The passion, you heard the passion. The passion just wasn't as loud as JR's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't audible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said off air to you, Michael Cole is missing one thing that JR and Gorilla had. Gorilla was there during the Hogan era. Okay, he had Hogan.
Yeah,
to call.
This is a good point that you make.
How it's not that hard to be the best when you're calling for the best. You know what I mean? In the best era, in the hottest era of professional wrestling. Then you skip over a generation, you go over to the Attitude Era, and you got JR calling for Stone Cold Steve Austin, the hottest wrestler in the fucking history of the business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they had that. What did Michael Cole get? Yes, he had John Cena, but that's not Steve Austin. That's not Hulk Hogan.
And JR had most of Cena too. JR had a lot of Cena, right?
He did.
And but Michael Cole was different because he got the wrestlers. Like he got Angle, Benoit, Jericho, or Angle, Benoit, Eddie, Chavo, and Edge and Mysterio. He had the SmackDown 6, and that's where Michael really made. And if you look at people's bodies of work, people talk fondly about that SmackDown 6 era, and Michael Cole's a big part for that.
But Gorilla had Hogan and Warrior and Savage and Steamboat. So these are the guys that made people fall into love with wrestling in the first place. You know.
The other thing I liked about Gorilla and Jesse, before I move on, because I really want to talk about your number one, is I like that they were both workers. So they would break down.
That's true. That doesn't happen. I never thought of that. Yeah, that's a good point. That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and they would.
It's usually your play-by-play is a straight guy, and then your color guy is a wrestler.
Yeah. I like that they were both workers. That was a different take in the match.
I never thought of that. That's a good point.
All right, come on, let's do it. I gotta talk about it.
I think my number one, if it's not obvious, I mean, I'm not even going to bother making a joke about it. We're talking about Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Absolutely. You could just put Royal Rumble 92. If that was the only night they ever commentated together, that would still be your number one. That would still be your number one.
I got to go. Where are you going? I got to go see Flair.
You get back here. The one-liners that those guys had. Will you stop? Sit down or I'll have you escorted out of here.
The first episode of Raw is some of the funniest things you'll ever fucking see. And Bobby wasn't even on the desk that night.
Yeah, that's right. I just thought these guys were so good together. That's not fair to Flair. Like, it's just some of the best moments in wrestling history.
They hated each other so much on camera, and then they were the best of friends in real life. To the fact where the day Gorilla died, I don't remember what day of the week it was, but then that Monday on Nitro,
Yeah.
Bobby told Eric, okay, I want you to put up a package, a tribute package to the Gorilla. And Eric said, well, no, he's not one of our guys. He says, if you don't do that, I'm walking out and not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much he loved Gorilla Monsoon.
If I could go out to dinner with anybody in the wrestling business, Vince McMahon would be my number one, just because it's Vince McMahon. Yeah. But I would love to just be the third person having a steak with Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon.
That old show on the network there, Table for Three. Me, Bobby and Gorilla would be holy. And I wouldn't talk. I would just sit back and just listen.
Yeah, 100%.
I'd love to hear. I wish they were both alive right now. Can you imagine their podcast?
Oh, it'd be the best thing ever.
If Bobby the Brain Heenan, if Bobby had a podcast with anybody, even Conrad Thompson, it would be fucking gold. But Bobby and Gorilla together, holy fuck, it would be better than JBL and Briscoe, and that's saying something.
That's a great podcast. Bobby Heenan could do a podcast with a salt shaker, and it would be the greatest podcast of all time. But man, just like the magic of those guys. I always love when Gorilla be like, Gorilla be like, yeah, he's really working on he just say this elaborate body part, like a fancy name for it, like his jugular, blah 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 blah, and Bobby like, yeah, and he hurt his throat too. They were just so good together.
And Bobby never needed to yes, for today's standards, some of the stuff he said could be counted as kind of racist and shit, but he never needed to go that dark or that blue. You know what I mean? He never went the route of a Jerry Lawler or a Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't have to it didn't have to be so blatant. Sure, if he really wanted to make the argument, okay, Reba McEntire, that was sort of racist, but who's going to call about
Chico Santana? But that's harmless. It's harmless, exactly. Though. I had this conversation about a month ago.
But that's what I'm talking about. He never needed to go the route of actually telling the racist joke.
Yeah,
the way that JR or not JR, King and Cornette kind of.
I had this conversation with friend of the show Anthony on Classic Match Classroom a while ago. We did Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman, and he asked me, is Andy Kaufman's bit of insulting women, is that offensive? And I said, I don't think so, because of the way that he did it was so outlandish,
Yeah.
When he's making funny voices going, get in the kitchen and strop the carrots and blah, 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 blah. He's doing it in such a way that even when
not to mention
when he's saying it though, you can tell that it's just so hokey pokey that it's not real.
And he was playing a character that was a piece of shit, and in the end, that piece of shit got his comeuppance. That's it all.
That's a heel.
That's what makes it all make sense to me in the end. I've said this 1,000 times to give my reason why you cannot justify the storyline from WrestleMania 19. If that whole thing ended with Booker T fucking laying out Triple H at WrestleMania 19, standing over him and being like, I shut your mouth, the whole storyline could be justified.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. That story was a racist guy saying racist things and getting away with it.
After pinning him 40 seconds after pedigree.
Yeah. So, you can't, that doesn't work like that. The Andy Kaufman stuff, at the end of the day, you're just like, yeah, that piece of shit got what was coming to him, because that was the story.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the story you're telling, you can get away with that kind of shit.
I got to tell you, overall, I enjoyed your list. I agreed with about, I'm going to say 84.5% of it.
We got some Steiner math going on over here.
I think that you missed a really big one.
Okay, I'm going to ask you.
It would be my number 6, I think, or 5.
I'm going to ask you a couple questions to see if it's what I'm thinking of. The thing that was almost my number 7.
Yeah.
And if it is, I'm telling you right now, the only reason they didn't make my list was because of longevity.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay.
Is this a team from the last 10 years?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So it's not Morrow and Nigel McGuinness.
No, it's not. I thought they were
All
a great
right.
team, and I love
So did
Morrow.
I, and I really wanted them on. I think Morrow is one of the best play-by-play people in history.
Me too.
I really wanted him on my list. I really wanted them on my list, but because of longevity reasons, they just couldn't make it.
I think that you forgot about these guys in general. I don't even think they're one of your honorable mentions. I think you made a fuck up.
I'm gonna look at my honorable mentions here. Have we talked about either one of them?
No.
No, eh?
No, I have two. I'll give you my easy one first. I think I would have made a case to put Mike Tenay and Don West at my number 7. I enjoyed those guys together.
Yeah, they're an honorable mention.
Yeah, I don't think that you have the other people as an honorable mention though, and I really think they should be on your list. My other one.
Okay, go for it. I'm confused, so go for it.
I'll give you a clue. We've had this guy on our show multiple times.
Oh, Ian and Caprice are a fucking honorable mention.
No.
Wait, multiple times?
Multiple times.
Who we had on the show? Who we had on the show multiple times?
I really think that you missed the boat and should have put Dave Prazak and Lenny Leonard on the show, on your list.
Wow, okay. You have to sell me on this. I'm pissed off that they didn't make my honorable mentions. I did forget about them. I did. You're right about that. But as far as best teams of all time, I don't know who I'm kicking out. So you put them over JR and Heyman or Michael Cole and JBL?
I don't think Michael Cole and JBL would make my list personally.
Really?
I think I would have yanked them off. I would have gone back and forth with Heenan and Shivani and Tenay and West, but I would have taken Cole and JBL off for Dave Prazak and Lenny Leonard. I think the work they did.
Remember too that I wasn't watching as much in that era as you were.
Very fair. Very fair.
I have seen it. I've seen a lot of it after the fact. I was not watching ROH on a religious aspect at that point in time when Lenny and Dave were doing their thing.
Yeah.
So your connection to them is much different than my connection.
And that's fair. And that's fair.
Do I
I'm not going to beat you up. I'm not going to beat you up.
Do I think that Lenny is one of the best of all time? 100% I do. Do I think Dave Prazak is one of the... I mean, shit, man. Dave Prazak's one of the reasons I love GCW.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they are phenomenal together, but I think that's the reason why I did forget them.
Their work in Ring of Honor is fantastic because they do that thing where they take great matches and make them better. Yeah. And if you listen to Lenny, he should have commentated Joe and Kabashi. I'm with you on that one, Lenny. I agree with you guys. But also their longevity. They worked in Ring of Honor, Shimmer, GCW. I think they should be on there. I would put them in my number 6 spot, I think.
Okay.
That's the only thing. That's the only thing I'm really going to bust your balls on this week, man. I would like to give a personal honorable mention, and it's a 3-man boost, so it's a cheat code. But I really loved, and this is childhood me, so I'm going to pull a you this week. I'm going to go from my heart. I'm going to pull.
I know who you're doing. I know who you're doing because it's on my honorable mentions.
Who am I doing?
Vince, Bobby, and Randy.
No.
Ooh,
JR, Bobby, and Randy.
I'll take Vince over JR.
The King of the Ring and WrestleMania 9 and King of the Ring 93. I love the work those guys did together.
Okay. Yeah. Either way, Bobby, Randy, and then either of the two.
Yeah. I mean, there's no wrong answer there. Also, Piper and Vince were really good too.
That's all my honorable mentions. You know me, I wish I could have put that on my list. I just couldn't. I'll throw out a couple and then you tell me if I missed any. I got Gorilla and Lord Alfred Hayes.
Oh, love me some Alfred Hayes.
Me too. Vincent King, of course, Vincent Piper, Tony and Jesse, Tony and Ross. I've got Ian and Caprice. Yeah, I got one you probably didn't think of. It wouldn't have made the list, but they're one of my favorites from a personal standpoint. Matt Stryker and Vampiro.
That's a great deep cut. I like that.
They are a favorite of mine. Of course, Cole and Taz, just for the small little bit that they did, that was good. Mauro and Nigel. I think that's all the ones I have written down. So what do you think? Do you have anything left? Did I miss anything here?
I've got a couple actually that just came to my mind. I really enjoyed Kevin Kelly and Steve Carino together for Ring of Honor.
Yeah, fuck. I'm kind of pissed. They wouldn't have made the list, but I'm pissed I forgot about that. And another one you're going to mention, I'm sure, Kevin Kelly
and Don Callis.
Really
enjoy them together.
Too. Yeah.
I also like when JR and Jim Cornette got together. They didn't do a lot together. Okay. They didn't do a lot together, but I really enjoy their, like, they wouldn't have to be a list.
JR and Kevin Kelly were pretty good.
They were good together as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know what team could have been phenomenal, and then they just pulled them away after only like 3 shows, and I don't know why. Very recent team of D'Lo Brown and Todd Phillips in Impact, and then all of a sudden they threw Aiden English in there. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. I think Aiden English is a great promo guy. I think he's a great wrestler. But he sounds like Ray Romano fucked Grover.
Oh yeah,
I don't
mind him. I don't mind him on there.
I can't stand him on commentary. I can't.
I like Todd Phillips a lot, though. I really do.
I remember when I found out he was going to Impact, I was all pissed off. I'm like, no, I don't like that guy. It's because I mixed him up with Byron Saxton.
Oh, okay.
And I hate Byron Saxton.
Not a big fan of Byron either.
But I like Todd Phillips, and I think he's doing a great job over at Impact. I just think he'd be doing a better job if they kept him with D'Lo.
Yeah, that's fair. D'Lo was doing a good job. I don't think I have anything more.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some that somebody might throw at us. There's been so many combinations out there in history that we might be forgetting one or two, but
of course, Gordon Soley and whoever, but Lance Russell and whoever, like I just can't. But it didn't matter who Soley and Russell were with. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's it. I don't think they were ever part of a team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
On that note, man, it was great to have you back for a week. Now go change some fucking diapers, all right?
Oh. I'm going to do a music list next time just to piss you off.
Oh, God. I'm going to extend your hiatus. Well, I know it's been a while since we've heard this, folks. So, Mike, do what you do, man.
Brother, on behalf of the greatest broadcast team in history,
the greatest broadcast team that's never broadcasted yet. How about that?
We have been counted out.
Slobberknocker, cheers.